Welcome to My Week. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for joining us on this holiday week. We trust you've had some good quality time with your family, and that's where Nolan Finley is this week. He is on vacation. But our other My Week contributor, Stephen Henderson from the Detroit Free Press, is here, and we have a lot to talk about. It's good to see you. Have you had a nice week?
I did. I had a nice 4th of July weekend, restful.
Yeah, so there's no shortage of things to talk about in the news, and I think the first thing is now we've had 2 police shootings of African-American men, and both of them caught on video. Yeah. In a very graphic sense.
So if you want, if you're okay and comfortable with it, you can watch these 2 men die on a screen on your phone, and I think that is that's a turning point that we've sort of been at for a while. We've seen this a couple times with other African-American men being killed by police on camera.
Yeah, but I think that there's something different about it's just something very different about these videos that I think you're seeing a lot of reaction to on social media as well.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, and also, of course, everything coming out from the FBI. No indictment for Hillary Clinton, but the head of the FBI on Capitol Hill today answering to a congressional hearing about, can we hear more about what's happening here?
Yeah, well, I mean, he said some very pointed things about the way she handled all of this, but said that it didn't rise to the level of criminal indictment, and you know,
should there be some kind of consequence, I think, for her in should she have her security clearance revoked, which is a lot of what Republicans are calling
I mean, I think
right
that would have been the logical sort of series of consequences, right? Inside the administration, not in the criminal justice system. Of course, Republicans want an indictment because they think it'll help them win the election.
Yeah, it's all about politics, right? All right, well, we're going to take a good look at that. We have a lot to get to tonight, plus an interview with journalist and author Amy Heimerl on her new book about moving from Brooklyn to Detroit, rehabbing a house, and becoming part of the neighborhood. It's called Detroit Hustle. That is coming up. And we're going to take a look at the growth of Detroit's Eastern Market and how it's playing a role in Detroit's growth. So settling into the desk right now is Dan Carmody. He's the president of the Eastern Market Corporation.
Morning,
hey,
Christy.
Dan, how are you?
Stephen.
Yeah,
it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of give everyone's familiar with the Eastern Market and its storied history in Detroit, but go ahead and what's your sense, I guess, of where the market has been now in the last 2 years specifically?
Yeah. We're celebrating actually our 125th anniversary, and actually to still have relevance after 125 years is pretty remarkable.
It's pretty amazing.
And really what's happening in the food systems around the country is that the local food movement and people paying more attention to what they eat is changing the food system really as we speak. And so as you talked about Brooklyn, where the largest employer is actually the food sector, the same is true in Detroit. We work with a group of over 300 potential food entrepreneurs, 150 that have already got a product in a scale that they want to sell at our market. Another 150 that through a group called Food Lab Detroit are trying to get to that scale. So there's a huge opportunity around jobs and an entrepreneurship around food these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk about the expansion that you guys are really looking at.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that's going to happen and come online in the Eastern Market. It's not just going to be a market anymore. It's going to be a lot of other things.
10-year plan?
10-year vision to make sure we're still relevant 125 years from now.
Right.
And so for us, people think of the market, sometimes maybe don't think about the neighborhood. It has 150 businesses, most of which are food businesses.
Right.
Every city in the United States that's old at all had a place like that. Most of them are gone because the neighborhood got too popular for bars and boutiques and lofts. That's happening now in Detroit. And so the current market district is at risk. We have 10 companies right now that have to be in larger space within the next few years, or they're going to have to relocate, and we will lose them for Detroit. And so for us, the opportunity in Detroit is we have a lot of land that's vacant near the market, not entirely vacant, but vacant enough that we can envision a mix of uses with industrial in those spaces where we can keep 1,500 jobs that are currently around the market district that are at risk. And actually, with the interest in local food, hope to grow that number, maybe double or triple that over the next 10 years.
Okay, as a nonprofit, how do you explain that to investors or people that would want to give here, and the importance of this kind of expansion into new territory for Eastern Market?
It does take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of hands on board to see this expansion through. Detroit has 96,000 vacant lots, so I mean, it's not just Eastern Market. We need to figure out a template to repurpose urban land with a mix of uses that is job-rich, as well as creating neighborhoods where people want to live. And we think the food sector is particularly important because it has the highest percentage of entry-level living wage jobs. And if you're trying to solve unemployment in some of the neighborhoods, those are a good source of jobs to leverage. And so it won't be easy. We've been at the table working with the city and various land bank and other agencies trying to figure out how we could expand the market district in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, and the expansion will be some residential too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to have more people living down there, I should say.
With all the rules that modern food businesses have to live with, we're not talking major slaughtering facilities, or we're talking food processing. We're talking companies like Grover's Corned Beef that's been making corned beef products in Detroit since 1851.
Yeah.
They need to expand, and they have a facility that is all self-contained. They have some trucks. We have to plan around those.
Yeah.
But our goal is to combine industrial development with stormwater management practices in such a way that you can buffer and landscape and make attractive urban neighborhoods that you could live not too far from them and enjoy the benefit of actually walking to work.
Yeah. Talk about what's going on right around the market as well. The new extension of the DeQuinder Cut is, I believe, just about finished. Is that right?
The market used to be in the middle of a dense urban thicket of residential development, and then it wasn't as the city built freeways and as houses got torn down. We were kind of an island now. So the DeQuinder Cut and the Midtown Loop, which connect at Wilkins and the DeQuinder Cut in the heart of the district, really begin to reconnect the market to the neighborhoods around it.
Yeah.
How do you see Eastern Market's growth with the growth of Detroit and where Detroit stands right now as a city?
Well, I think Detroit, because Eastern Market is such a unique asset around North America, that we have the opportunity to use food as one of the pillars of growth for the city. It's one of the most democratic forms of economic development. Of those 300 entrepreneurs I talked about, there's a lot of people from moderate income households whose grandma and grandpa had excellent recipes that they're trying to figure out how to bring that custard pie or the pickle to market. And we think that's really important, that the face of Eastern Market and one of the DNA characters is it's always been a place where new immigrants or marginalized people have gotten into a market because of a low-cost access to 30 or 40,000 people that come on a Saturday, and they can grow their business. And so that economic democracy and that sense of being a working food district, those are the two characteristics that we must fight to maintain over the next 10 years as Detroit embraces hopefully a richer investment pattern than it's had over the last 30 years.
What do you need to happen if you go across the DeQuinder Cut, that neighborhood that sort of runs into Shane, up to Mac?
You're looking at 70, 80%, 85% vacant land.
Right. I mean, there's nothing left over there.
So-
Is that an opportunity
That's part of the
also
area.
for the market?
Part of that area to the east, and then another area to the north of Mac is that area we want to try to figure out a template that can combine food manufacturing, processing, and distribution in a way with green stormwater management practices that yields a mixed-use neighborhood where people can live and there can be shops as well as jobs.
You know, sometimes Detroit is described as a food desert, and whereas there's not a lot of grocery stores for people to get to, and Eastern Market has played a huge role in having that fresh produce for people. Talk a little bit about some of the outreach you're doing to communities to make sure people who can't get to the market are still able to have access to the fresh produce.
Yeah, the distribution of fresh fruits and vegetables in Detroit has been limited over the years. It's getting much better. New Whole Foods to new Myers, and about 8 of the major independent grocers have underwent significant renovations over the last few years. But since 2009, Eastern Market sets up at pop-up fruit and vegetable sites, this year 24 around the city. We also work with 16 groups, including our own Tuesday Market, and form a network of what we call neighborhood-scaled farmers markets. So there's actually 16 neighborhood groups around the city that are doing a weekly farmers market during the season. We try to coordinate and improve their offerings as time allows and money allows. And then we also try to use the market as a place to educate people around health and nutrition and a place to distribute benefits to those people that are on food assistance through the SNAP program. So during the Michigan growing season, you bring your SNAP benefits to the market, you redeem it for $20, and you get an additional dollar-for-dollar match up to $20 that can only be used to buy Michigan fruits and vegetables. That's a program we've done in conjunction with the Fair Food Network. So successful that the recent Farm Bill included a national pool of money to try to expand that program nationwide.
All right, as we wrap up, you get the last question, Stephen.
Yeah, how soon are people going to notice these changes going on?
Well, we hope within 2 years you'll see the first new facility built by one of our major food distributors. We think over the 5 years, again, there's the need to build 6 to 10 new facilities, and then in 10 years, an additional 10 to 15 different facilities. And truly, if we can create a template that works for the food industry around Eastern Market, it's a template that can be used throughout Detroit through a variety of industries to make sure that we have neighborhoods where ultimately those families can have that one car instead of 3 cars to get to all the jobs. And I actually have the luxury today of walking to work or taking my bike
you
to
live
work.
pretty close by.
There you go. Hey, and so we'll look for you down at Eastern Market.
Appreciate it.
Dan Carmody, president of the Eastern Market Corporation.
spending some
Thanks
time
for
with you.
joining us. We appreciate it.